Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be covering the Final Destination, not Final Destination 4. We are going to start this review off very, very strong with my disdain towards this movie, even with the title, The Final Destination. Like, there's been choices that were made for this film that are so baffling to me. This review is probably going to be the most negative review I have released on this channel so far. But God, I'm going to tear this movie a new one because it is not good. This is not a good movie. I am so glad the franchise did not end on this entry. So far, every single video I've done in this series, I've talked about some of the behind the scenes info that I found. I didn't feel the need to look into any of that for this movie because studio, the producers, they didn't care about this movie, so therefore I don't care to do research on their movie. In fact, I'm just going to take it at face value for what it is, the hot garbage that it ended up being. Most research that I did for this film was producer Craig Perry did a whole bunch of interviews for this film and was oddly full of himself when he was trying to sell it, and I will just flip some of that stuff in here and see, like, you guys should let me know if you agree with anything he said about this movie.
I am bringing a love of the horror movie genre. I'm also bringing, I think, the full realization of the three movies and what we learned on them in one movie that delivers everything the fans would want, but in fabulous 3D. People need to see the fourth Final Destination, because if you think you've seen the first three, you haven't, until you've seen the Final Destination movie in high-def 3D.
So this would be closure.
This is closure. This is the last Final Destination. We wanted to go out with a 3D bang, and we're doing it. And I think the audience is going to get everything they asked for, plus a little more dimension than they ever imagined.
Blah, 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 blah.
Now, all my other videos, I warn for spoilers, and I have recommend to go watch the movie. If you guys are a completionist and you want to see every single Final Destination movie, check this one out. I don't think there's going to be callbacks to this film in any of the other movies. I think they're going to pretend it didn't exist, and we should keep it that way because they did not do a good job on this film, and I can't even blame the actors because, yes, their acting is bad, but the bad dialogue in this is just so flat and boring, and none of the characters have any depth to them whatsoever. So what was there for the actors to really work with? As I get into this review, there's going to be one character that I actually enjoyed in this movie, and even him I found a little bit lackluster, but I really do think that actor was doing his damnedest to try to do a good job with the crap that he was handed. I suppose to start this movie off, you guys should all know, and as you already know if you've seen this movie, it is in miraculous 3D, and it constantly just has stuff getting thrown at the camera, even though producer Craig Perry said he didn't want a film like that. That's what this is. It's just random shit constantly getting thrown at the camera, whether it be a cork popping at the camera or a really bad CGI kill. There's always something flying at you in this movie, and it doesn't look good, and I don't know what it was about 3D cameras for cheap horror movies back in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Even Saw 3D has this effect where Saw 3D also did not look good and everything just looked super CGI and fake. And even for this movie, the scenes where they used practical effects, they might as well not have, because by the time they put CGI over it to make it 3D or whatever, you can't even tell there was practical effects in the first place. And that's what this movie is riddled with. And there's so many scenes throughout this film as well where I felt like they were onto something, where they had good ideas, but very rarely, if ever, were there scenes where they actually executed it properly. So you're going to hear very few praises for those things, because more often than not, when they would do a build up for something that was a good kill, it just fell flat almost immediately. Starting with the opening premonition, you have in our first three films very relatable instances of stuff that everybody's done or been to. You have a plane, you have the pile up, you have the roller coaster. It's very feasible things NASCAR is not. NASCAR is such a niche and makes it immediately unrelatable. Another thing too that was kind of frustrating is all the movies they jump into the premonition pretty quickly, but you get some enjoyment out of what little bit you get of each character before we get to the actual premonition. This film, all the characters are super flat, unlikable, and boring. I don't even know any of their names. Even the lead, he's so forgettable. You know nothing about him, but when it jumps into the premonition, you don't care. You really don't when this huge pileup happens and everybody just starts dying. You're just like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. And like, there was one scene in it where I was just like, oh, this is really well done. They're doing a good job with it, where you have this mother that is in the stands and all these people are like trampling over her as they're rushing to get out of there. And that is such a horrifying concept. And if the scene would have ended there, I would have loved her kill. But it's Final Destination. They need to make it over the top. I can understand that. But having that car engine fall on her looked like such garbage. I don't know what they were thinking and like how they were able to look at that and be like, oh yeah, that's good. Put it in the movie. We're gonna sell tickets for that. People are gonna buy it. Yeah. It's even more painful watching the movie all these years later and not watching it in 3D and watching it in 2D because I know damn well it did not look good in 3D, but in 2D, like, it is like exhausting throughout the film when you see all this stupid shit constantly going on. That was obviously shot for these 3D effects, and it's not charming and fun like in something like Friday the 13th Part 3, where the bad effects like have aged it to where it's iconic in its own right. This one's just bad. Right after our lead character has his premonition as well, you have the scene of him freaking out and everybody getting dragged out and surviving the accident. And whereas in the first 3 movies they did a very good job of doing it, this was just marking the slot off the bingo card because you just have these random characters leaving for no reason. Like, there's no justification for them to leave. They just skip out with him, and it makes no sense why they would. It was only to do that so we could have our body count for the film, rather than trying to do some kind of decent explanation or any kind of writing at all. This will be the only praise I really have for this film. Once the accident is over, you get this title card and title sequence that is really fun because when this came out, it was supposed to be the last Final Destination movie. So throughout it, they had like this 3D animated X-ray scene that shows all the deaths from throughout these films and like, oh, do you remember that? Oh, that's so much fun. And like, yeah, it is fun seeing those things again. But it immediately reminds you of, I wish I was watching any one of those movies instead of this one. You don't want to do that in the middle of your movie and remind people just how bad you did. Aside from the beginning premonition, we also get all these mini premonitions, which isn't new to this franchise by any means. Each one of the original movies before this one has done them as well. In the first one, you have the scene of Devin seeing the bus in the glass before it hits Terry. In the second one, Kimberly just randomly has visions and they're like little snippets of stuff that's going to happen in the future. The third one, you have the camera. They were all very cool, done differently, done well. This one is just like this like weird mismatch of CGI garbage, and it just pops out at the screen to go, wow, 3D! And I can't stand it. And it just reminds you just how cheap this movie is. And I'm going to say that so many times in this review because that's what it is. It's a cheap movie. Normally I would point out some of the characters I like. There's only one character I like, so we're going to talk about him. And then we're going to go into the kills because his character kind of leads into the kills. But you have George. He is the only character that has any remote amount of depth to him. You find out that he was an alcoholic and he's the reason that his wife and his daughter passed away because he was drinking while driving. I very much enjoyed his character. I think the actor did a good job with what he was given. And it's the only point of this film where it seems like the writers remembered like, oh yeah, we need to write these as people instead of just kills. We should just do one of them and then everybody will be happy. But like, let's not make it our main protagonist. Let's make it a side character. So then when they inevitably die off later in the movie, we're going to have nothing for anyone to care about at all. Anyways, moving on from that spiel, the first kill that we get is admittedly kind of fun in a dark, humorous kind of way. It is one of the only kills I enjoyed in this film, but you have this racist that survived the crash, and when he was pulled out with everybody else, his wife got left behind, and he blames George for it, and even ends up dropping the hard R on George for his wife being dead. Our two main characters end up jumping in though, saving the day and getting rid of him.
Kids, don't be racist.
And later it cuts to him in front of George's house with a cross that he's going to put in his front yard and set on fire, which ends up leading to him getting caught in the chain of his tow truck while Why Can't We Be Friends starts playing on the radio, and he gets dragged down the road and is lit on fire. That is so much fun. I enjoyed that. The preceding explosion after that is admittedly less good, but as a Final Destination kill goes, that one I would 110% say is the best one in this film. If it's a good kill, I will give them credit where credit is due, because there's not going to be much more of that throughout this. Jumping to another kill in this movie, you have the mom I mentioned earlier that got crushed by the engine. She goes to the hairstylist and is getting a haircut or whatever, and this is one of those moments where I mentioned earlier that this film has little inklings of, oh, this could have been good, but then they just botched it so hard, because all the build-up during that scene is so much fun, where you see the pump on her chair is busted, you see the rickety fan, you see the can of hairspray slowly going into the curling iron or whatever, and like all that stuff ends up going off. Her chair collapses down, the fan falls, the hairspray blows up, but it does nothing, and it just makes you feel like Death is this bumbling oaf that doesn't know what he's doing half the time and isn't as smart as like it should be, but it ends up leading to her lackluster death of her looking at her sons and being like,
I've got my eye on you two.
And a rock goes through her eye and kills her. I am so sorry, Final Destination 2, that I made fun of your foreshadowing for the lottery guy's death for his eye getting gouged out. That was so much better written and subtle than this. Like, I take everything back. That was an unfair criticism. It was at this point in the movie, and I even wrote in my notes as I was watching it, that these aren't characters. They're just walking body bags that spout exposition. That's all they do. You even have a scene of our lead character talking to his girlfriend and his two friends and like explaining to them like Death's design and how, oh yeah, like these kids that survived Flight 180, they went through it too. And I think that the way that we survive this is that we, like, Death's gonna come for us in the order that we died in the premonition, but also if we're able to avoid that death, it'll skip us and go to the next person that was on the list before eventually coming back to us. But like, it wasn't earned. How did they learn that? It's just this random exposition dump that seemingly happens out of nowhere, and it just immediately angered me. And again, it's just like everybody leaving with him after his premonition at the beginning of the film. It isn't telegraphed very well. It's just written in there because that's something that happens in a Final Destination movie, and they gotta have it here. And I am so glad that they didn't have Tony Todd to do that exposition dump like he normally does, because the way he does it is so iconic. I am so glad that he was not in this film. I don't know what his reasonings were for not being in this movie, but thank God he avoided it, because this is the worst one, and it didn't need to be in his filmography. Shortly after our exposition dump, we have the two friends disappear and split up from our lead and his girlfriend, and they realize, oh no, they were next on the list and they died at the same time. I don't know which one was first, so we're gonna split up and go find them. And the only reason they left in the first place was to kick off the kill. It is so choreographed, but again, not to good effect. There's been other films in this franchise, Final Destination 3, where it's just working up to the next kill, but at least it's fun. And like, it knows what it is. It's trying to have fun and entertain you. This one is just trying to make money. Moving on from that though, you end up getting this scene again where I kind of wish it was the kill that we got in this scene because both are decent, honestly. You have this scene where the girl goes through the car wash and she gets stuck in it. The car starts filling up with water and it is super eerie. And I think if it were in a better Final Destination movie, if it were actually the kill actually was successful, people would remember that death because that is such an iconic idea. She ends up surviving this though because our main guy's girlfriend is able to get there and save the day, and then she just kind of exists in the rest of the movie until the end because reasons. But then you get to our eye candy of the film, the ironically the only one I remember the name of, but that's like I said, eye candy. He's hot. But we follow Hunt to this pool and he drops his lucky coin down the drain or whatever and he jumps into the pool and it starts draining and he gets his ass caught on the drain and essentially it sucks all of his organs out of him through his and like oof. It's scenes like that though where I'm like, you guys had ideas for fun stuff. Like I think you guys should have sat on your script more though and like reworked it. For some reason, because they saved the girl from the car wash, they're convinced that they beat death, that it's all over, and you're just kind of sitting there like, this is stupid. Their point is even pushed further because George, our only likable character, knows he's next on the list. He tries to commit so death can't get him, essentially. And he even like throws out there that he's been trying all day or whatever, and it just hasn't worked. And like none of the characters think that's odd. They're just like, oh yeah, pop a cork. We're good. We beat death. Da 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 da. But then plot twist, apparently, you have another guy that survived and is currently at the hospital who was supposed to die that was also saved because of the premonition or whatever. All builds up to this final scene that is this premonition, and it also leads to our only likable character, George, dying very unceremoniously. He gets tarried. That is so frustrating to me. This whole end scene, though, takes place in a premonition initially. This movie theater explodes, and with the budget and the choices made in this film, I was extremely shocked that we didn't end up hearing a Wilhelm scream in the middle of all these explosions and like bodies getting thrown all over the place. In fact, you know what? I think this deserves a Wilhelm scream for this movie. It's on that level of good, apparently. So let's just add that in.
Find your way to the exit, move to the exit, remain calm, everything's gonna be okay.
The only thing that I enjoyed from this premonition that I thought was done well, where you have the main guy and his girlfriend on this escalator and it breaks apart and she ends up getting pulled into all the gears and getting torn apart. It's a super cool kill, but immediately after that happens, he wakes up from the premonition and George still dies. He isn't able to turn around and save him, so there still goes our only likable character in the movie. Our main character ends up going to said movie theater, and this scene that's supposed to be super tense where he's trying to stop the fire that causes the explosion in the theater that's going to kill both his girlfriend and her friend is not suspenseful at all because you don't like any of the three of them whatsoever. So he literally has a nail gun like shoot him in the arm, and he's like sitting there trying to like reach over and like grab this freaking board, and like you don't care that he's trying to set off the sprinkler to stop the fire. You kind of just want it to happen because you don't like that. Obviously though, he ends up saving the day and is able to stop the sprinkler and stop the fire, and just like in every other Final Destination movie, because we gotta cross things off the checklist, we have them a few months later at a coffee shop, and instead of giving us actual kills, we get Final Destination's take on a Mortal Kombat fatality scene. And honestly, it's not good, but somehow that is better than the original ending they had planned for this movie. I can already tell you a huge spoiler for my next ranking. The newest movie and the next one are in no way, shape, or form going to be worse than this one, this is at the bottom of the list. There is no argument. It's already there. And unfortunately, this is the worst entry, but for some reason, and I mentioned this in my part 2 video because I had to fact check myself, audiences let this film be the highest grossing in the franchise. Like, okay, I guess 3D gimmick really did work. It put money in their pockets, but whatever. Anyways, though, we're gonna wrap up this video and let's just like shake it out a little bit and get like all this negative energy out of the room after going into this full rant about this movie. But you guys should tell me what your opinions are on the Final Destination, and if you liked it, like pop off in the comments and tell me like why I'm wrong and why you enjoyed it. And if you hated it and you want to crap on it some more, then like straight up, you pop off too in the comments. Go off, queen. And if you guys have ideas for future franchises that you want me to cover, I'm game to hear it. I am about to finish this one up and I want to move on to another one. I'm not sure what that is yet. So if you guys have ideas for that, like just let me know. And if you have just some ideas for solo videos, like let me know that too. Like I love anything and everything all horror. I'm trying to make that clear, I guess, on this channel. Anyways, if you're new to the channel as well, I would be super happy if you enjoyed this video, if you gave it a like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this again. But with that all the way, this has been Justice, and I hope to see you guys on the next one. Take care.